Welcome to Grassroots Analytics Insider. I'm Julia, and today we're here with Ben, who is our Director of Fundraising Mail. You were our very first podcast guest, so welcome back to the show. Can you remind everyone how you got to GA and what your role is?
Yeah, of course. I got to GA a year and a half ago. I came basically straight out of college. I had a little bit of experience doing campaign fundraising. I worked in a couple campaigns in Pennsylvania, mostly local campaigns, and
Cool.
Got here straight out of college and started doing direct mail here. Now I am the director of fundraising mail here.
Amazing. That's a great journey. Okay, so tell us a little bit about fundraising mail. How would you explain it in 2 minutes or less?
That's a great question. Okay, direct mail fundraising is the original form of fundraising.
Ooh.
This is how people started doing grassroots fundraising.
Sure.
The first campaigns when they were figuring out that, you can fundraise by reaching out to thousands and thousands of people, all of whom give like a couple dollars at a time instead of like having to rely on big rich donors.
Sure.
The original form of doing that was mail because, like email was big, but there weren't really like huge email platforms. And phone technology was just not there yet.
Totally.
So this was the original form of sending out mass communications to fundraise at a small dollar level. And now I would say it's a form of fundraising that obviously has been kind of left or cast aside by some.
Got it.
It's not as common as you used to see it.
Right.
That said, every big organization across the country, every big candidate across the country, every big nonprofit committees, they're all doing direct mail fundraising because it is still one of the most powerful ways that you can fundraise at the grassroots level.
Got it. Amazing. That's a great answer. So when you're talking to, clients or users of fundraising mail and the grassroots services, how do you talk about measuring success in fundraising mail, and what are some key metrics to know?
Yeah, I think you really just start at the basics of every fundraising channel. You want to know how much you're putting in and how much you're getting out.
Sure.
That's the first metric that everyone will look at. But things do get a little more complicated because in direct mail, as hopefully you're doing in every channel, you want to think about ROI in long terms.
Right.
You don't want to think about just how much you're getting through one appeal to a cold audience. You want to think about how much value that cold audience yields over time.
Got it.
And I would say that's especially true in mail because mail is so much more expensive on the front end than
Sure.
email and texting is. In mail, you have to pay for postage, you have to pay for paper,
Yep.
you have to pay for the dozens of hands that touch the piece before it gets out the door. And all of those costs do add up. So that, I think, for some people, it is harder and less common to break even or fundraise, get over 100% ROI on your first sends. But the long-term ROI is fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Is it really true that it's really about building relationships with donors and keeping them long-term versus a short-term?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I would say one of the advantages of mail is the fact that it leaves an impression on your donors that is different than getting a text.
Got it.
Think about when you receive an invitation from a particle, for example, versus
Right.
when you receive an invitation in your mailbox
Right.
from a friend, the
Sure.
one that was sent to you and written by a person. And it's a real piece of paper that you interact with and you touch and you make a connection with it, feels different than what is sent to you digitally.
Yeah.
So I do think it leads to a longer term connection with your donors. I will say also, just going quickly back to the KPI question,
Yeah.
some of the things that you're looking at is obviously your immediate ROI, but something that you also want to be thinking about is your cost per donor acquired, so the CPD.
Oh, okay.
That's a term that we use in mail quite a bit.
Sure.
And that just means how much did it cost on each send to acquire a donor. So if you spent, let's say, $10
Right.
and you got $8 back, but you acquired 10 donors, then
Right.
you can calculate it would be 8 over 10 or whatever the math
Right,
is there.
right.
You would know how much each donor costs, and now all you need is for those 8 donors or 10 donors to make up for the $2 that you spent
Right.
in the front end. The idea is that hopefully you're not spending. Hopefully your cost per donor acquired is 0. Hopefully you're making money when you're acquiring the donors.
Sure.
That's our goal, but that is one of the metrics that we're always looking at.
Right. Yeah. It's very interesting to think about. Like, that's a deeper level metric than just like money raised.
Right.
And it's really about like long-term investment.
Yeah.
So pulling on that thread of like talking about different methods of getting in front of someone, like, you know, an invitation versus a text, in this digital age of rapid response texting and emailing, why is fundraising mail an important strategy for both campaigns and nonprofits?
Yeah, I think for one, it's always good to use multi-channel fundraising because
Sure.
there's a lot of donors that just prefer to be reached through their preferred means.
Yeah,
Some
definitely.
people just prefer to receive something in the mail. Some people prefer to receive texts or calls or emails. Through doing direct mail, you can just make sure that you're reaching all of your donors at least through the way that they prefer to be reached. There's always going to be a segment of them that would like to receive a piece of mail.
Yeah.
There's always plus there's some advantages. There's some things that you can do in direct mail that you can't do in digital, just as there's some things in digital that you can't do in direct mail.
Sure.
So using all of them helps cover all of your bases.
Got it. Yeah, we like to say something like firing on all cylinders and just like making sure that you are meeting people wherever they are. And I do think that like for both campaigns and nonprofits, it's a really effective strategy, like you said. Okay. What would you say to a campaign or nonprofit that was intimidated by mail because they don't really know all the work that goes into it?
Yeah, I would say number one, you're right to be it makes sense that you're intimidated by it. It can be hard to start up a direct mail program. You're dealing with a lot of vendors, and you have to speak the printer language of what a
Sure.
number 10 envelope is and what a number 9 return envelope is, and the type of weight of the paper that you're using, and whether you want that inkjet or there's all this like technical terminology, which makes
Yeah.
sense that people would be slightly intimidated of
Sure.
starting this themselves. The good side of this is that we can do all of that for you, and you really don't have to go through all of those loops anymore. You know,
Yeah.
like there's a lot of third-party vendors. There's a lot of our team is equipped to deal with all of that, and all you have to do is sit back and approve copy the same way that you would through digital fundraising.
Got it.
And also I would say today's printers and list brokers have really evolved to speak to like understand what you mean, even if you
Yeah.
don't know exactly the right terminology. We'll help you figure it out.
Oh, that's amazing. We love when things are more accessible for people running for office, especially. Can you give us an example of a time when you worked with a team, in your work with Fundraising Mail, to help them reconsider how they thought about Fundraising Mail and what it could do for them?
Yeah, I can't name
Sure.
the campaign specifically, but yeah, we've worked with lots of campaigns that think about direct mail and digital as completely separate silos, and
Got
people
it.
that you shouldn't overlap, and
Right.
that you shouldn't send a mailer out to someone who has given to you digitally.
Yeah.
But we've actually found that one of the most powerful ways and successful ways to start up a program from zero is to find the people in your current digital donor base who give via direct mail. Turns out people are less siloed than a lot of campaigns and organizations treat the donors as.
Yeah.
People aren't thinking, well, I only give via digital when they receive an appeal. They
Right.
a lot of people give via more than one channel. And we can help people identify which people who in their current digital file or any file looks like a direct mail donor and are likely direct mail donors, and then we can reach out to them with a separate appeal in the mail. And we've had that be a very successful way to boot up a new campaign, and it's really helped overall lots of folks realize that they don't need to silo them as much,
Right.
and that the donors want to hear from them, and there's just more than one way to do that.
Amazing. That's just like another angle of how to make Fundraising Mail more accessible, because you already have the data that you need. Amazing.
Exactly.
Can you tell us about a time when you were most proud of your impact with Fundraising Mail?
Yeah, I would say I would say the most proud that we are is how just the breadth of clients that we're able to work with. Direct mail has long been reserved for campaigns that can invest a ton upfront and are okay with taking a loss.
Yeah.
That's why it's become pretty popular for like some of the more some of the biggest organizations across the country is because they have the money up front to invest and they don't care
Right.
if they lose some of it.
Sure.
But that's also meant that a lot of the smaller campaigns can't take advantage of the extreme power of the really powerful fundraising that can come from direct mail. And so we're very proud of being able to work with anyone and do our best shot at making it succeed for no matter the client and no matter really what they're running for or where they're running. We have a few different ways of doing that, but overall we try to do mail as cheaply as possible and as accessibly as possible.
Yeah.
So everyone can take advantage of mail.
Wow, that's a really amazing thing to be proud of. I also think it just speaks to Grassroots' mission of breaking down barriers to fundraising and running for office with a product that, like you said, has traditionally been for people that have a lot of capital to spend on it.
Yeah.
Okay, talk to us a little bit about this moment in the election cycle. What should campaigns with upcoming primaries be doing?
Yeah, I mean, you should be, firstly, if your primary is coming up, you should be, number one, just resoliciting all of the folks that you already have in your database, making sure that those people are hearing from you and are getting updates consistently. But you should also be planning for the outcome of your primary.
Yeah.
I think some folks would maybe don't want to jinx it by preparing things, but it would be worse for a campaign to win the primary and then just not be prepared for the moment.
Ready. Yeah, totally.
The momentum of winning the primary can be amazing, but it does fade pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So people in campaigns should be preparing fundraising appeals. They should be preparing communications, email series, everything that they need to make sure that the people that have been supporting them and believing in them through their primary hear from them immediately after and are able to jump in and support you through the general election. So if you can prepare, have mailers written and ready to go, and all you need to know is the result to hit send. If you can do that with texting and email, then the better that you'll fare the days after you win your primary.
Amazing. What does innovation look like for fundraising mail?
That is a question that we try to answer every single day. It is, it's hard. I think for a lot of folks, it's not people don't really know the answer to that because fundraising mail has been around for so long and it works the way that it's been done. And so people are a little bit, there's some amount of resistance to changing how things are done.
Sure.
But here we are trying to change that. One of the ways that we're doing that is through one of our offerings, the quarterly cohort. So this is a cohort of people that we get to print at the exact same time every quarter and unlock bulk discounts for all of them. So instead of going to the printer with one massive budget where it suddenly makes the cost per piece very cheap and you can reach a ton of people, we have realized that if we get a lot of folks that are, have maybe smaller budgets or are running in less available or less name recognized seats, if we get all of them together and print at the exact same time, they can get the same discounts that the legacy organizations are getting by mailing at a huge budget.
Wow.
And so we do that every quarter, and it's one of the ways that we've made mail much more accessible to everyone, really running up and down the ballot.
Amazing. That's a fantastic innovation. Can you talk about how you lean on a GA pillar in your work in the direct fundraising mail world?
Yeah, I'll actually, I think one of my favorites is down ballot uplift from this year. We have changed the way we're doing mail differently than I think a lot of places have done mail traditionally.
Sure.
One of those ways is that I think the traditional way of doing direct mail was very often, casting a very wide net, mailing to a ton of different lists from a bunch of different sources and seeing what sticks, and then expanding to that list down the road. That's a fine strategy if you can be mailing all of these people at once, but obviously a down ballot race or someone that doesn't have, maybe someone that's running that doesn't have a massive connection to very rich donors or doesn't have just a call time list sitting around of people that can just immediately fundraise, bankroll the campaign. They need a different strategy. And so what I think I am very proud of that we do at GA is having our massive database of progressive donors that we can hyper-target. That means that we can hyper-target people that would want to hear from a down ballot campaign and people who you do not need to mail all of these different lists to
Right.
find the people that care about this. We know where they are, and so we can find them
Yeah.
from the beginning and start narrow for you, and find the people that care about your race all across the country. But it doesn't have to be this massive operation from the very start if
Right.
that's not where your campaign is currently at.
Yeah, amazing. We often talk about this, like, send less to raise more, and it's actually just about, like you said, finding those people who really do care and really want to support, rather than casting this wide net that's expensive and sometimes ineffective.
Sometimes ineffective, yeah.
Amazing. What are you feeling hopeful about right now?
I am very, very hopeful that I've seen the momentum across the country and just have seen a lot of people standing up for the right things in this very hard time. And I think that there's a couple candidates that have been kind of talking about this, but they've been talking a lot about courage being much more contagious than fear is. And I think that across the country, just seeing people that are leading or just showing courage means that everyone feels a bit more emboldened to stand up for what they believe in. And it's given me hope to see that there's like communities of people standing up for the things that we think are right, because it's inspired a ton of folks to do the same thing. And I think that, a lot of things could be happening in the world, and if no one was standing up for the right thing, I think people would be really down. But the fact that we are seeing these pockets of folks, it's making all of us feel a little more hopeful.
I totally agree. That's a great answer. Thank you for inspiring us.
Of course.
Cool. Anything else you want to add about mail?
Um,
How could people get in touch if they're interested in chatting about fundraising mail?
Email me or any of the campaign managers here at GA.
Yeah.
You can also just reach out to us via socials or reach out to
Yeah.
us via our website. We would be happy to talk about how we can make mail fundraising work for you.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Ben. This was amazing.
Thank you.